and anyone can win.
And now it's a best of one. Now it's the format that draws the most criticism because there is no backup game. It's a best of one for their whole season. Will it be SKT missing playoffs, KSV and Rocks going through, or SKT limping over the line to force a best of 3 against KSV for their time in the playoffs in the wildcard match? Amazing that we have this tension, and it sounds like Pick and Ban is ready.
Yep, certainly is. So guys, we're going to jump into Pick and Ban for the last time in this series.
We'll notice there are no changes for SKT. They do not sub in anyone. They keep with the same roster. To me, what SKT need to do is just respect the fact that Kongdu Monster can play win lane, win game. Be a bit more respectful. I think the Taliyah priority will go down. I imagine Faker would love the Azir, something that can fend for himself in any matchup. Whereas Kongdu Monster, if they can find another way to get a winning mid lane matchup and attack Faker, that seemed to unsettle SKT as a whole, not just the great man in the mid lane himself. The Monster will not walk into the Xayah either. And we see an Olaf ban. So I love to see that respect bans are being earned this series. The Xayah earned after game 1. The Olaf and the pressure earned after game 2. Now Kongdu Monster considering the rise, that would be a true flex pick and a takeaway from Faker's famous champion.
Yeah. Would also mean that Faker couldn't respond with a LeBlanc of his own against a Taliyah. And you're pointing at it, it's the Zac for blank. They take it away as a first pick over the side of Kongdu.
And now they say, all right, we've seen your Jarvan, that worked. What have you got into Zac? And they will take the Zac for raise. It's one of the few picks that the team actually has a decent win ratio on. It's not 3-0, it's gone 3-4, because sadly, that's just how the season has gone. But Zac has been very respectable. Zac can potentially have a great matchup into the Varus. Let's see if Faker will lock in the Thresh for effort, who has not jumped on the Thresh this season. Was an engaged support before he became kind of a disengaged support when we saw him in the Casper Cup and also this season. He is known for the engaged choices. The Thresh is what you want to answer the Zac in one pick.
Certainly is. As we mentioned before, there's a small pocket of Kongdu fans that are still here in the studio, and they bring out the banner for Game 3 because they know there's a chance it's actually going to happen. The Jhin, banned twice in a row, comes out this time. Soul will say, thank you very much. It's my time to shine.
Legacy pick for Soul. Sort of pick that can be answered by a big tank line. They already have a Sejuani, so we'll see how much respect is shown by the side of SKT to the potential of the Jhin, which got pretty heavy buffs over time. Now, if you want Thresh, you probably need it now. But SKT seem to be reaching instead. They want to play a global game, and they will put Tal on his most successful champion so far in spring season in the GP. 5-1 on the season, can allow them to play the side lanes very well. His ultimate is also one you can throw onto the curtain call and say, Jhin, how many of these Anim Barrages can you take before you fall low enough in the fight?
Yeah, also offers them a chance to double ban out the top lane to give Tal an even easier laning phase. You think about picks like Camille, even the Fiora. But what are they going to go in terms of banning here? They've already taken away the Vlad. It looks like Camille will be the second choice.
How spicy is Roach willing to get? I believe I saw him play some Riven into Gangplank a few months ago. The weird thing about Roach is I say he's a tank-only player. I remember asking the team about Roach because he's struggled for a long time. Every time he has been on Kongdu Monster, through all the seasons, he has struggled. And I'm told he's a carry player. He just doesn't have the confidence to do it. This would be a time to hold your hand up to be counted after a great Fiora game. We do see the respect ban onto the Thresh, so the reliable disengage on the Zac is taken away. SKT looking for support, but also the mid lane. They will be giving Faker counter pick, so we'll see what Edge wants to take blind. Maybe you just run the LeBlanc and say, what you got?
Would certainly be a statement towards the side of SKT, especially if they took a very aggressive counter matchup into the top side as well. Kongdu Monster, will they make the statement here with their last two picks? What are they going to do? Another Fiora for Roach seems like the answer.
Gonna play around a winning top lane. The Gangplank does pretty well into Fiora, but we know that Fiora 2 items and with some Infernals can go, and they're gonna blind the LeBlanc. I think they're gonna do it. He knows that if he goes Taliyah, Faker will play LeBlanc and bring it back after a few years. So for now, it's just going to be the mind game. He shows the LeBlanc and says, all right, we'll lock in the Rise. So they won't lock the LeBlanc. They are going to take the Rise. It's not been a winning, but they are 0-8 on Rise, but not necessarily because of Edge's own misplays. SKT looking down the tier list. Will they go the Cassiopeia? Another tier champion buffed on the Archangel's changes. Hasn't been a big pick for Faker in this season. The Anivia can definitely be considered, but remember, Anivia is strongest against multiple tanks. However, it's a good laning matchup into the Rise. You outrange him, you're able to use the wall for a lot of disengage and engage. It's not necessarily a team comp answer to what Kongdu Monster want to do, but it can always evolve to be if they force Kongdu Monster into a 5v5 team fight.
I do like, though, you mentioned winning the lanes, and we saw it out of Kongdu Monster in Game 2. They won the lanes, and they won the game. They had the Olaf jungle to help out as well. This time SKT says, you're not going to win the lane. We are the better team. We don't necessarily need the direct answer to your composition, but we are better players, and we're going to show you with our draft.
They're not surrounding the top side like they did in Game 1. They weren't respectful around Kongdu's winning lanes. They lost. In this game, the Fiora, slight advantage over the Gangbank, who will farm. We know how that goes. The Zac and Sejuani is basically a wash. Sejuani has most of the aggressive options when it comes to the earlier laning matchup, and it is a winning lane matchup for Anivia over Rise after 6, when you can actually show some threat and put down the Glacial Storm. But this is Spicy Valdez. It's still a best of 1, and crazier things have happened. We just saw Kongdu Monster win pre-30 minutes against SKT. Can they find their 3rd match win of the season and take probably the most popular team in the world and dump them out of playoffs? Your first thought always is no. Your brain says no. But it's weird to say that Kongdu Monster are still in with a shot. We're going down to the wire.
At least Faker still smirking after that last game. They went back to the drawing board. They went into the room. Everybody calmed down, and they're ready. They've been in pressure situations before. Feels weird to say that a best of 1 against Kongdu Monster is a pressure situation, but they need to win 100% to make it into the playoffs, and certainly that's pressure enough. So let's see how it's going to go down in game number 3 between SKT and Kongdu Monster. Here we go, game number 3, SKT, KDM. Something I didn't think I'd be saying, but Kongdu Monster able to pull it out and make things very, very interesting. As we mentioned before, Kongdu, they're not really fighting for anything. They're already in relegations, they're already in 10th place, but it's good practice, I suppose. They're going to try their hardest, of course.
And they do have that relegation playoff to play just after the LCK final, so probably somewhere in the second half of April. And when you're Kongdu Monster, a team that started this series on a 13-match loss streak, you probably don't get a lot of scrims with SKT or Kingzone or the top teams. You probably have to scrim with the bottom half and also the challenger teams. A lot of teams will go into break, the teams that aren't in playoffs in a couple of weeks. So it's really all about getting as much good practice as possible. It's great practice. If they can beat SKT, they will have a lot of confidence going into the relegation matches against Griffin and likely Damwon Gaming as well. So today, it's all about a best of 1 that could honestly really buff up their hopes for promotions, whereas for SKT and most of the fans watching, it's about SKT's destiny. They're SKT, surely they always make playoffs. Right now, it has to be decided in a best of 1.
Seeger wants to get the steal, and Blank says no. Thank you, I'll smite it. We also had a little thing pop up about Rise. Did receive some nerfs to his E, less spread damage, but more damage in terms of numbers early on. And also his Realm Orb, 60 seconds across the board, is going to be longer on the cooldown, up to 180. So it says, will Rise still be used? And it looks like the answer here is yes. Still very safe pick, sustained damage from the mid lane. Edge hasn't had a lot of success on this pick, though. We mentioned it before. He's currently 0-8 on the pick. Is that his Rise, or is that his team just failing? We'll have to wait and see as this game goes on.
I mean, if you think of notable Rise blunders, you think of, say, Lava, for example, when he realm warped his team into Doom. in a series for Rockstar. 'Cause you don't think of Edge. I think he's been fine on the rise, but he has been counterpicked by the Anivia. Looking for a lot of aggression onto Effort, but won't be able to get the Devour, does Kongdu Monster. And we finally see the Jhin that's been banned against Seoul quite a lot this week. A lot of respect being shown. Playing a lot in solo queue and has played 26 pro games on the Jhin. It's always been in his wheelhouse. Power being respected after the buffs on patch 8.5. And you've got to say that SKT could have gone full tanks. They haven't really. It's not the squishiest team. It's not the tankiest either. There's certainly, we see Seoul get to the sort of AD values I saw from Sheriff last night in the EU LCS playoffs, where it was at 800 AD. Who knows?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, you mentioned we haven't seen Jhin in quite a while. It's coming in because it's getting buffed, especially in 8.5. Lots of extra damage added to his kit. He can root everybody with his W now on any of his damage, of course, and he gets played in solo queue. He gets to play it in scrims, and people know that he's really good on the pick. I'm excited to see what he can do here. Definitely will have to deal with the Sejuani and an Alistair in his face, as well as the Cannon Barrage from the GP, as you mentioned earlier.
Nice thing about Jhin against the Varus is it's another pick into Varus. Varus is a blocker pick for a lot of AD carries. No one wants to run Tristana into Varus anymore because of the Varus' laning priority. Jhin is very, very safe. You can go Doran Shield, you don't have to go Doran Ring and go for a gimmicky Rune page in order to get through the laning phase. The buffs have made him viable again, so it's nice to see options in the AD carry role. We see Jinx and Jhin run around the Rift in the last week after being on very much the standard Varus versus Tristana for the whole of the season, so it is fun to see options for people like Seoul.
We're going to have to see Blank on the Sejuani once again. He looked okay on it in game number 2. I wouldn't say it was necessarily his fault that they lost the game, but still the question remains, can he carry a bit on the Sejuani pick, or rather is it, carry on something that is not the Zac that Raze did pick away from him this game? Or
even a simpler ask, have some early game plays on a champion that isn't the Zac, because the Jarvan, it was all after Raze got the first 2 kills in the game. The Sejuani in the previous game, nothing doing, so we're looking for a level 6 gank from Blank at this point to show us his straps and show us that it wasn't just the Zac that was able to get him over the line in 4 games in a row. I'm also interested to see the Fiora matchup, because to me, Gangplank does very, very well against Fiora in multiple different ways. Raze in the mid lane on a ward.
Faker trying to bait it here. Let's see if he can do it. The stun is going to miss. No wall comes out. There it is, finally. Intensity with his ultimate. Raze taking a lot of damage, but has to flash over the wall.
That was a nice bait from Faker. He knew he was about to hit level 6 from a minion dying, able to go in, get the flash away from Raze. Now they can potentially invade the enemy jungle and know there's one tool that's down on the Zac, who uses his only other gap close to farm the minions. Just to talk about top lane for a little bit. If you think about the Gangplank's build, it's already basically pre-decided when you know you're in the Fiora matchup. It's Trinity Force into the Sterix Gauge. Because with Sterix Gauge, through the ultimate, you actually have a very hard time killing the Gangplank because the shield pops up. You're usually about exact damage, the percentage true damage coming through, and not able to take advantage of that when the Sterix shield messes up calculations. So usually very safe in the side lane, whereas Fiora's solo kill pressure, we saw that in the previous game. 1v2 was even possible for Roach in that game.
Yeah, once you get to a certain point, it's part of the reason why Fiora does get picked. And even though it hasn't had too much success, Roach finds the answer, the formula.
Risky. Raze is invading. Remember, his flash is down.
That he is. SKT has been doing a good job of warding. Let's see if the smite can come in. Blank is going to get it after all of that. Raze also getting pretty low.
He gets 6 from the blue buff smite away as well. Blank was level 5 at the start of all that. We get the pull out to let us know that for now at least, there's going to be no threat. Secret moving into position for the Devour.
Whoa, okay. Blank trying to, get him underneath the dragon damage. Now Soul in a little bit of trouble. They know
Devour's on cooldown.
There it is, the Ignite ticking down. They need one more hit to do it, but here's Raze. Look at him turn it around. He dodges the Cannon Barrage too. Now Effort getting low. He is going to be devoured up here. Do they have the damage? In comes Blank. The ground pound and the flash away. Now Blank trying to get frisky in the front, trying to lay down some damage. Bang, not enough to finish him off.
Man, that was tense,
boy.
Valdez. That was close on both sides. Bang hit level 6 from that. They couldn't clear the minion wave in time. If Soul had pinged level 6, there would have been answering kills, or at least a first blood for the side of Kongdu. So a lot happens. We have to also know this has implications in top lane, as now, if Raze goes top lane, there's no ultimate from Tal to clear the minions under turret. There's always a flow-on effect when a global is used, and Tal has used the cannon barrage.
Faker comes up here, sees that the blue is not taken, was thinking, okay, Zach's not up here, and trying to poke his head up towards the top side, but sees Zach, and he backs off. Not going to go for any Anivia ganks.
The Anivia no boots gank.
Oh,
famous play.
With a catalyst and a tier only.
It's one of those things where if you do that, it actually has a surprising success rate, because the first thing the enemy top laner thinks is, no way he's going to gank. The
You see
next
it in
level,
solo
next
queue.
level. Yep.
Yeah, where it's like, okay, I mean, this top laner is not thinking about me ganking as Anivia ever, so I
remember
guess I'll do it.
I was ganked by a level 3 Karthus once, and I was very mad. I was in the bot lane, and level 3 Karthus with no boots killed me.
Those are always the best.
And I was like, but that's not what this champion's for.
It's when the enemy mid laner doesn't respect your push and just lets you push into them. You're like, okay, I guess there's no warding. I'm going to gank as Karthus / Anivia / you know, whatever very passive champion you got in the mid lane.
Faker needs to go back to base, but has hit the part of the matchup where you have a lot of options against Ryze. Ryze is very medium range, and you're able to use the wall and reliably get the expanded Glacial Storm into the Frostbite trades that make you win. The RE that has always been there for the Anivia is very potent against the Ryze, so lane control will start to go the way of Anivia, who has a faster push, especially after the pushing nerfs on patch 8.5 slow down the push from the Ryze.
Picks up a lasting one, gonna have some AP in his kit now, as the bottom lane hasn't been all too frisky. There's not too much action outside of that one fight we saw earlier where the junglers came in, but outside of that, it looks like Bang and Effort are actually losing to the combination of Soul and Secret. Already Secret's, or rather Soul's Jhin is working out quite well, and they're looking for another gank in the bottom lane.
Summon advantage is pretty big. Raze hasn't been spotted because he did not walk through the river from the top side. But you could argue Faker hasn't been spotted either.
He's finally spotted, but the Chains of Corruption come in. Now they're gonna TP down to try to help out Soul, who's taking so much damage, but it's not enough. Turning it around onto Bang, but now Edge in a lot of trouble. The kidnap, though, onto Bang, but not enough damage coming out onto him. The wall trying to keep in Edge, but he actually makes it over. Faker flashing the wall. He's trying to be the carry, but it's not enough. The last auto cannot take out Edge, and he will survive after all of that.
Another even fight, 4v4, but nobody dies. Tal has the cannon barrage to throw it in. Doesn't get anything, and Raze going back in.
Oh, hello. Is that enough damage, though? He needs to get the auto with the red. He flashes in and he gets it. The first blood. He is going to trade his life after all of that. Kongdu Monster certainly cannot follow up, but they do get the kill. And Gangplank also making his way down to the top lane. We could have a Fiora pushing top.
A bit of a mistake coming through Fiora. Didn't teleport onto the Bloblets, teleported defensively, and then cancelled us. Doesn't get a teleport advantage through all of this. They will give up the Ocean. You'd argue it's not worth it to get a kill for an Ocean this early, and the Ocean is a big buff to Gangplank and Anivia. Both of them very mana hungry in the laning phase. So while Roach can push up and proxy for a little bit, I would take the SKT side of this trade, even though the feel-good moment for Kongdu fans is the first blood. So we take a deep breath, we think about what happened, because this was a very multi-layered fight. Effort held onto his Pulverize, hoping to get the back end of all of this. Soul, again, 100 HP, walking out of a cannon barrage on the top side. A lot happening for the SKT side, but not enough damage to take down Edge, who gets the Realm Warp off, being able to count the CC. One more auto, all that is required, but not enough damage. They walk out. This could have been the end of anything, or everything. There was still a 1-for-1 after it, but the Ocean Drake goes the way of SKT.
Kongdu Monsters, say what you will, but they're certainly creating a very entertaining series so far up against SKT, whereas a more solid team would back off and say, okay, we can go back to the drawing board, you know, just not fight. We don't have to dive in again as Zach 1v5. But Kongdu Monsters say, no, let's do it. And Certainly, they do give over the Ocean Drake. SKT feeling pretty decent after that trade. If you are having a little bit of extra time in the top lane, will continue to get ahead in the CS.
And it's all very frustrating for SKT fans, because if they had gone on to win this 2-0, they would have thought, okay, the gauntlet run is on, we're ready to go. They could finally feel good about themselves in a season where it's been very lean times for SKT. Now, if they win, they're just limping over into the playoffs over Kongdu Monster, and everyone will say, you could hardly beat Kongdu Monster, how are you going to run the gauntlet? And maybe that'll empower them to keep on prepping, but they are definitely being drawn to the last against Kongdu Monster, and that is not a good sign, because KSV into KT, into Afrika, into King Zone is an insane schedule for any team in the world.
And as you're talking, Roach does it again. This time there's no fight to interrupt him. And he's going to get the Rift Herald very early at 13 minutes into this game. Has a little bit of help from Raze at the end, but he uses that pushing advantage in the top side against GP to just head on over. There was no vision. And so they hand that one over to Raze. We'll see what lane they want to push. I would suspect either the top or the bottom side.
Very interesting. Look at the build coming through from Bang. Now, he hasn't necessarily fully pigeonholed himself into rushing the Wit's End, but it looks like a Wit's End rush when you look at damage coming through from the enemy jungler and the Rise. It makes sense. Could just be the Negatron to respect all the roams bot lane. But it's not going to be the Rage Blade complete at the same time, at least, with all the gold invested into the Negatron. Maybe he wants to fight earlier, have the extra on-hit damage. Things changing around the Rift. Boots 2 has always been a rush on Soul. Won't be the Swifties that were the core tenet of any build on Jhin. It's going to be the Merc Treads this time.
Uh-oh. Never mind. It is effort with all of his summoners, but
it's Raze.
They see it, yeah.
The Rift Herald, they know Varus is in base. They continue to push. We haven't looked at the turret HP. I'd imagine it's relatively healthy, and it is. How much damage can they do? Effort's leaving, so they've given this one up.
Yeah, relatively is the correct term. Healthy, but not healthy enough, as they split the gold over to Soul and Secret in a very early turret here. First blood turret given over to Kongdu Monster before 15 minutes. Going to take a big lead in the gold off the back of that, about 1.3 thousand.
And again, 15 minutes into Game 3 against SKT, Kongdu Monster have a gold lead. Things I did not expect to be saying on the final day of the season, regardless of how many matches I'd seen. Given the difference in levels historically between these two orgs, still feel like SKT are very much in a great position to take over this game, but Kongdu Monster are winning the early game. The Essence Reaver now finished onto the Jhin. I'm excited to see if the permaban status of the Jhin against Soul is going to be worth the respect that it's been shown so far. That's the big pick that Kongdu got in game number 3 that wasn't available to them earlier.
Effort, the cow bait here, trying to come into the control ward, but Kongdu Monster not biting the bait. There's no objective over here. It's really about Soul, but he's going to slow them down.
Best effort could have hoped for there was a trade of flashes, which you would love against the Jhin, but the trap being there, and there was no way for him to do that. Kongdu Monster clearing in mid lane. Extra AD ratio on the Q makes it him a bit more competitive, the Jhin, to push through a mid lane. Side lane, everyone's piling in to kill the Rise.
Might be able to do it if they land the Sejuani ultimate. We're not going to see that, as 3v1 on Total is going to be pushed back. Looks like the bottom side fight also did not happen. And Blank did hold on to his ultimate. It was a very long dive back there. And Kongdu Monster used that pressure to take another turret.
And it's a big thumbs up moment for Kongdu, because they get the cannon barrage defensively to stop a dive, and they get the turret. That was the first objective, to trade up in terms of turrets. So they're able to blow a very important cooldown, and they get the turret they were set up for anyway. And somehow, Roach's Fiora is the big win condition today, and they're thinking about diving still.
Things you never thought you would say. Certainly Roach has been down on the bottom of the tier list of top laners, but he wants to prove everybody wrong. Literally everybody that's made a tier list about top laners does not have him high up, and he's looking good in the series.
LCK Spring 3 years in a row, and he would have been my 10th place top laner, maybe even 11th if there was some good top lane subs. He has struggled, Valdez, so for him to show on the carry, something he never has played reliably in the past. We're seeing a new Roach. Is it 2 years too late? Not to the Kongdu fans, if they're able to beat SKT today.
Yeah, you never know. Maybe off of the back of this win, he gets confident and begins to carry. It's kind of funny to say. But certainly the bigger storyline would be SKT falling to Kong the Monster. The game isn't over, but certainly SKT is a bit behind that. Ocean Drake was good early on, but Kong the Monster, they end the laning phase. And even if SKT have control of this next Drake, it's another Ocean. The RNG not going in their favor. The triple Infernal going to Kongdu. The double Ocean to SKT.
Double Ocean decent, but at 18 minutes getting the second one, you don't feel fantastic, as you mentioned. Raze is walking up. This is risky.
Yeah, he's just walking straight into them. He's going to use that to get Faker to the back line, and he's forced to get out of here. Doesn't really do much after all that, as he's forced to flash away anyway.
Cancel the teleport as well, and Tar will go top lane, trying to interrupt him. Will not be able to do so. They don't get turret damage. We take another deep breath. Remember that every time they fully engage, the wall can completely change the battlefield and make a seemingly one team fight for Kongdu Monster a losing one. So we have to be very quick to pivot Valdez when it comes to who is most likely to pick up the win in the 5v5s. Roach a second time cancels his teleport. He's working on Trinity Force. He's still loaded with gold.
Oh boy. This is, it's neck and neck between Kongdu Monster and SKT in game number 3. Our 89th match of the LCK 2018 spring. It's as close as ever. They're looking for another dive onto Tal here. The defensive cannon barrage once again, but they're fighting through it. Here's Raze as well saying, hello, I'm going to pick up the kill. They're going to give that one over to Rose. But can they get into the back line here? They're going to get on top of Soul. No Devour just yet. Finally comes on in. Trying to get him to safety. Here comes Faker. He's got his ghost on. He wants to get the wall, but this time Ray's gonna jump into the back line. Varus is gonna stand tall against them. Ray's now TPing on in. The wall, they're trying to kill Zach here in the end. Nope, TP to get them. The Devour to get Kongdu Monster out of dodge. At the end of all of that craziness, a 1-for-1. Wow, okay.
And you have to look at the cost in terms of summoners when it's a very extended dive like that. Teleport and Ghost, not going to be big. No flashes blown. So in the general, it's just a 1-for-1. Fiora will back away. See how much gold she was holding on to. Not enough for a Trinity Force. So isn't able to take over the side lane in the way like she'd want to. Soul also putting together gold. It was a wit's end rush from Bang. He is looking for as much power early as possible. Rageblade might be a 3rd or 4th item, as it will be in the future as we move on to 8.6 and it becomes a percentage scaling item rather than a flat AP and AD item, attack speed as well. Rageblade is going to take a different route. It's going to be kind of the death cap multiplier to an on-hit build rather than the core of a on-hit build. So Bang working with what he's got. He's trying to get the power. He knows they cannot afford to give up the mid-game like they did in game number 2.
This game is getting crazy. Kongdu Monster still ahead at about the 20-minute mark as we cross that here. Next Drake is going to be Infernal, so certainly one that the two teams will fight over. Are they going to have an answer to Roach in the top side? It still sounds funny to me. It's strange to say with my mouth, but he's 1-0 on the Fiora, and he's pushing him in. We'll see what he can do. He has transferred down into the bottom side. They've sent the Rise up to the top side, so they're executing a 1-3-1 for now.
Teleport advantage on the Rise, sorry, on the Fiora in just a couple of seconds. So that's why the Fiora is in bot lane. Rise has to be so careful because Sejuani, even Anivia coming out of the darkness and putting down a wall can basically kill him. So for now, at least, going to be very defensive. Defensive build also did not go for Rod of Ages, which we see on most of our Rise players. Just happy to opt into the Abyssal Mask this game. 2 items onto the Jhin. New build we see in Korea exclusively. No more Yomus. Out with the lethality. In with Essence Reaver, Rapid Fire Cannon, Infinity Edge as the core build.
SKT looking to make a push happen in the mid lane as they notice Kongdu Monster is a little bit split up, but they don't really have enough pushing power, and Soul's doing a good job of pushing back on the Jhin.
The Q buffs, the AD ratio as the game goes on from level 9 onwards, means that Jhin does a decent job pushing when that used to be the biggest weakness of a Jhin was if you put him in the mid lane, he got pushed in by basically everyone short of Ezreal. So giving him a bit more wave clear is helpful. Still going to be mostly about the force shot when you go a build like this rather than the ultimate. That will do plenty of damage as well. Kongdu Monster being respectful. They know where they're strong around Roach. They also know that one mistake could definitely snowball this game away. I just love the fact that with nothing to play for, Jin Air upset the Rocks Tigers, likely putting them out of the playoffs. And then today, in the same scenario for Kongdu Monster, they're fighting to the absolute last, the final game of the season they'll play, desperately looking for their third match win after so many defeats.
You just know that Kongdu Monster, there's not much on the line, as you say, but to take out SKT and to be the spoilers would be fantastic to them. They would love it. It'd be just something to give their team some more popularity in a way. Say, hey, Kongdu Monster was the team that denied SKT playoffs with their crazy 2-1 victory in the last series, but we'll see. They're going to go on to Soul here. Nice devour.
Watch for the wall. Watch for the wall.
No wall comes out here. Going to bang some heads together is Raze. As Faker gonna engage once again onto Raze. They're gonna blow everything onto this Zac, who tries to get away. Does kidnap blank in, but there's no further damage. Edge coming from the left side, trying to go 1v4.
He's done for.
There's the wall once again. The stun coming on in. Secret, but effort coming from behind, denying him the devour. A great play from our rookie support. The SKT fans gonna cheer as they win that fight in big numbers.
SKT really want Baron from this play. They should start it, you would imagine, but they're trying to deal with the Fiora in the side lane. They won't be able to get the Baron. That's so important for the side of Kongdu Monster. Raze in the front line, had flash and ultimate available and thought he'd be fine. There was no time to use the Let's Bounce because he was chain CC'd and killed. Before any of that could happen, watch the replay through all of this. They were baiting to get the engage onto Soul when he went for the auto attack on the very low health turret. Able to disengage. This could have been the end of everything, but they look for the pick. The wall finally used. Faker wasn't in position to use it onto the Tahm Kench. Great flash and pulverize as well. They're not able to pick up the Baron from this play. It's a feel-good one. It gets them more map control that they did not have before because of the power of the Fiora in the side lane. They also know a lot of summoners are down, but the ultimate prize in the Baron eludes them for now.
Certainly, you can see some of the weaknesses out of Kongdu in a moment like this. Raze not respecting the wall range out of the Anivia. Probably doesn't play against it all too often compared to some other picks. And then also Edge coming in and being forced to flash away just to try to survive, but then eventually going down. Means that Kongdu Monster, they're ahead, but they have had trouble ending games in the past. So now with a winning fight over to SKT, they close a bit of that gold gap and things are looking a lot more even.
I really like the Ghost from Faker. He's used it a couple of times, hasn't got value. He's saying, why Ghost on the Anivia? It allows him to side lane on the lane closest to the objective that SKT is going to fight for, and then goes to the objective to be in position. So teleport Anivia doesn't work because she needs setup time, but Ghost Anivia is a pseudo teleport in that way, in that you just have to have the right lane assignment of putting her next to Baron when you're playing around Baron, the Infernal Drake when you're playing around the Infernal Drake, and then she can Ghost to close the distance. So that's the theory there for the Faker.
Yeah, teleporting in as an Anivia is generally not a fun moment. You got to be away from the enemy team. As you mentioned, that setup time is very important. SKT, they were setting up towards that Infernal Drake, but they were very scared about Roach coming from the right side. And they're going to try to engage here. The ultimate will go wide onto Secret now.
Problem for Secret is he doesn't have a QSS. If he has QSS, he can face check and put down vision. It's actually building towards a couple of different items here between the Aegis and the Kindle Gem, just trying to buy power and early stats. QSS is sometimes a luxury, sometimes a necessity. For me in this game, it is going to be a necessity. But if he doesn't have to be there, and if he doesn't have to put down vision, maybe he can get away with it. They're face checking, and SKT lying in wait.
Kongdu Monster playing very careful here. They
does
know
have
they
the
have.
Should mention he has the cleanse, so
Yeah.
cleanse can still be very useful in this game, but there's so much chain CC that you worry cleanse might not even be enough.
Yeah. Fiora, Roach still doing a good job. Kongdu Monster, they're playing well around the pressure of Fiora, and they know that the Sejuani has her ultimate down. They start off the Infernal Drake here.
Remember, Cannon Barrage available. Tal pushing into Rise in the top lane. They're starting up the Infernal, so they've actually leashed it to 50% health.
There's a Cannon Barrage taking that damage, and the TP committed to from Tal. They want this Infernal. Kongdu Monster trying to disengage, but they're going to re-engage here. TP coming in from Edge now. Looks like Effort going to have to give his life up for that Infernal Drake. A pretty good trade after all for SKT.
What does it mean, though? There's no Tracker's Knife, so you know you have a time to get vision control around the map when the enemy's support is down. Roach can rush the bot lane as well, but Infernal for his support still feels good for SKT. The Elder is looking more and more ominous as we will have a fourth spawn. Another Infernal will be spawning this game.
We've seen this before, the Ryze Fiora duo push.
The piggyback that Kongdu tried in their last series didn't work. We should mention against BBQ, so they will disengage.
Yeah, it's hard to push into a gangplank. You can't really hold him down as the Ryze. You got to dive the turret. He has really nice wave clear, so certainly one of the harder champions to do that strategy against. Kongdu Monster, we mentioned a bunch of good things for SKT, but still some good things for Kongdu. They still have the 2-0 Fiora, who just picked up the components to a Bloodthirster third. And Roach, he was the MVP of Game 2. I could certainly see him popping off once again if it gets late enough in Game 3.
Very hard to make it about lane priority like it was in game number 2, where it was the win lane, win game. And they just had so much power so early that SKT were in a bad situation whether they ganked or whether they tried to play as 5. So in this particular game, the backup team fighting, we do see Roach team fight more than most Fioras. You are against an insane amount of CC. He's got Ninja Tabi into Sejuani, Anivia, Alistar, and Varus. And what does that tell you? It tells you he wants to be as far away from those 4 people as possible and play in the gangplank lane. So unless he's able to come in and clean up, if a lot of damage is done by Soul and Edge, maybe there's a cleanup. Speaking of cleanups.
Oh boy, Soul gets himself into trouble again. There's the cleanse flash, but he doesn't need to be there. He gets caught the second time. The first time it was for the turret, understandable, but this time just hanging around the river trying to get vision, and they will pay dearly for that.
Biggest upside for the side of Kongdu Monster is Bang doesn't have Rage Blade. We mentioned he went for a 1-item power spike in the Wit's End, a bit cheaper than the Rage Blade. Didn't want to be sitting on a pickaxe and a blasting one for an extended time, but it does mean the damage output from Bang is lower than basically every other Varus that we've seen. I was not going to expect the Roach is here, who is overstaying, but goes for the prediction play and gets it anyway.
Yeah. Good read there. There were some question mark pings. You know, maybe he had backed off into the jungle, but just being safe is always the good play, especially in a game like this, while not going to interrupt the Elastic Slingshot this time around.
Flash and Cleanse down on Secret, but Summoner's up on everyone else. And now they're going for the piggyback again. It's the way they like to go.
Yeah, Edge doesn't have his TP,
they're going
but
for
he has it. Here we go. The grand challenge is going to be procced up against the wall. Going to deny it for now, but here comes Ed from behind, and they get the kill. Trying to dive the mid lane turret is SKT, but it doesn't work out for them. And look at this. Effort taking a lot of damage, has to ultimate away. Great play for Kongdu Monster after all.
This is something that SKT should have expected. They tried the piggyback again and again in recent series, but this time they're going to pick up an inner turret. You and I know all about the piggyback. It's supposed to be an OGN, an old favorite of ours. But the piggyback strategy of sending 2 teleport users to the same lane, even though Edge's teleport was on cooldown, gets them the inner turret. You're probably going to have most of a Bloodthirst, and oh boy, we're going all in.
You mentioned the ghost on Faker. Kongdu Monster saw it too. There's no TP. Faker trying to make his way on over. Will they commit to this is the real question. Blank, he's got an opportunity to steal. Change of Corruption's coming in, and the force flash out of Blank. Bang, rather, he is able to get out of there. And Kongdu Monster, now they just want to get out. They cannot fight this, but getting low is raised. The Ignite ticking.
Is it going to get him?
Kill him. So close, but it's not going to do it, it looks like.
They're out of the fight. Does SKT turn onto the Baron from this? Their Baron damage is decent because they have Blade the Ruin King on the Varus, but otherwise they don't really have a secondary damage dealer as Gangplank can't be grouped. So they don't trust in their Baron speed. That does mean that Ray's able to heal up. But he's face checking again.
Yep, someone has to face check. It's going to be Raze this time. Up against the wall, is going to be taken out. Certainly a huge pick for the side of SKT as they get the jungler away.
This should mean Baron, but SKT are continuing to bait. They're drawing the ultimate. Soul gets a huge chunk.
That's the huge barrel onto it, and it means that Secret is also going to pay for it with this life. SKT should start the Baron now. We got Roach down the mid lane, trying to make him pay for it. Might be able to get this mid lane inner.
Try and get a turret, but that's just 2 inner turrets in exchange for Baron. Kongdu Monster make big hits around the Baron, but SKT outthink them throughout the majority of it. Kongdu Monster's Baron plays have not been something we praised in this series. I thought they might just go for the 50-50, but they tried to make the controlled turn. The turn doesn't work, and now SKT have Baron. What does it mean for the game? Because it doesn't mean much for the gold lead, Valdez. It's only 200 lead to Kongnu Monster.
It means that Kongnu Monster are going to try what worked for them. They're going to go for another piggyback play in the bottom side, but this time it looks like SKT has read it well. And effort coming down.
He has ult up as well.
And he does, and here's Blank as well.
Nice
riposte, okay. Can use the Realm Warp to get away. They're just going to try to walk it.
Goes from Anivia.
Here comes Faker trying to get that wall down. They're looking for Edge here. He
doesn't have
his flash. Oh, he misses it. And now trying to engage as it looks like finally they will get Roach. And now Secret forced to cleanse away from this one. Should not be able to get out of there. And SKT, they're beginning to roll with the punches and they're getting ahead from it.
One by one, the members of Kongnu Monster fall. The moment they saw Alistar, they could have just disengaged. They went for the pick, which was never going to happen. They give up the Infernal. Feels like the neutrals are where the big lead is for SKT. They have 4 Drakes, including double Infernal. They still have the Baron for 2 minutes. Kongnu Monster need to force SKT into team fights, otherwise this game should end.
They're getting a huge Baron power play, and we're still 2 minutes left on the Baron. They have so much time to make even more of it. Let's see where they decide to go. The mid lane inner turret is going to go down with Tal pushing in the bottom lane. But how far will they go? Are they willing to dive into the mid side? Still Secret is down as well as Roach. The push continues.
Wall still massive on the rise. It has to be so respectful. There's flashes up. Tom Kench back so they can push up a little bit more aggressively than before.
And a root effort here. Another wall that Secret can always devour over onto Soul.
Raze is trying to be an annoyance on the side. Won't actually be considering an engage. Fiora clears out the minion wave and is looking to groups level 18 for both GP and Fiora. But like we mentioned, Roach is not set up for a team fight.
So being the hero here, eventually able to take out the bannered up minion. And trying to be the sniper too. His W's are going to begin to hurt as we get later on in this game. But SKT, they really want to get this. There's the wall again, but another Devour on point. Chains of Corruptions locks them down. The inhibitor will also go down, but Blank getting low. It's not enough as Secret is going to pay for it. Now Raze is going to be stunned up, and another kill going to go over to SKT. Will they continue pushing? Still 51 seconds remain.
It's the reality of the comp. They can't 5v5, but they're trying.
Roach going to disappear once again, and they're going to catch Edge as well. It looks like the dream for Kongnu is not going to come true as an ace comes through onto the side of SKT, and the TP will come in. It was so close. The pressure was there, but SKT, they meet it, and they will get into the playoffs in 4th place with the win over Kongnu Monster 2-1.
High drama in the second last match of LCK Spring 2018. SKT creep over the line, but it's not the triumphant inauguration of their playoffs. It was only just Valdez, and they still have a motley crew of the best teams in the world to beat. If this is not to be their victory, this is the minimum you would expect from SKT. Qualifying for playoffs, the fans will say they did it last year, but this has been their worst return in LCK history. They dropped 23 games in LCK Spring 2018, 23 best of ones, more than an entire NALCS season of games. Meanwhile, their worst return previously was 15 games. Job is done on the day, but they know the victory on the season is far from done. They can smile, they can reset. They have 6 days to get back in form. They will face KSV in a best of 3 to decide who goes on to face KT Rolster. Chances of a telecom war best of 5 increase, but SKT just about did it. Kongnu Monster win lane, win game one in game 2, but when it came to game number 3, they had to group with the Fiora. Their Baron play wasn't clean, and SKT deserving victors on the day.
Definitely some fun storylines. SKT barely defeat Kongnu Monster to make it into playoffs. KSV, they make it because Jin Air upset Rocks Tigers, and either team that makes it up to face KT in our first best of 5 is going to have a very hard matchup, but also some struggles on their way to get there. And we're going to take a last look at the replay. Nicely done by SKT in the end. You notice Como is very happy. Everybody in the SKT booth very relieved after this one.
They're able to close out the game. Roach can't do anything. He's where all the gold is, Valdez. Ninja, Tabi, Fiora. It's a lockdown team. Tries to poke, tries to distract, not able to do that. SKT Rush through the GUI center. They don't worry about the Fiora on the side. Finally able to get the important picks. Fiora, well, she went into the fight and died instantly. Nice engage from Effort. They take out the Rise. They take out the game. This means that Rox Tigers are eliminated. So sorry to Rox fans who would have been watching on very interested in this particular match. They will not be able to make it after a great season. They fall at 6th. KSV versus SKT. Samsung Galaxy versus SK Telecom T1. It's not Beijing anymore. It's going to be the first match of our playoffs, and only one of those teams can go forward.
It's going to be a very hype best of 3 to start off our playoffs eventually, but now everything is set. We know who's playing in every match, at least who's in each place, waiting for the next team to come up. We will have our 90th game coming up next, guys. It will be a precursor to the playoffs, the Africa versus KT match to end the night. But SKT, they do it. It was very interesting best of 3. Kongdu Monster nearly upsetting them, but SKT pull through.
And my question to SKT fans who will be listening now, relieved that they've made playoffs, is what is good enough for LCK Spring 2018? They were right down the bottom. They went on a big losing streak, a historic one. How far do they have to get to live up to your fandom, to live up to your expectation? Making the playoffs was a very outside chance, and they've done it. They've clinched it right on the final day of the season. Do you need to beat KSV to be happy? Do you have to be the champions to be happy? Or is it somewhere in between? That is the question to keep in mind, because it's already a minor miracle